As long as Veronica, I'll tell you a little funny story that happens with me and Veronica every day. So Veronica is my assistant, right? So she sets up a call with very, very important people. I'll talk a little bit about some of the people we met this week. And basically, people like me and people, we always come to the call before Veronica does. This is like classic. So we are basically waiting for Veronica to enter the call in order for us to start a conversation. You see what I mean? So, and part of this things that we're teaching, and Veronica, do me a favor, please. Actually, 1 second. I will give me 1 second while we're loading up. Yes, Marina, I'll send this to you right now into WhatsApp, Marina. Okay.
Okay,
I
okay,
I also want you to share this with, you can post it to all of the students.
okay,
What I'm going to do to you, I am putting together a program that I want to launch in January. I actually spoke to Yulia about it 2 years ago, but only now getting around to it. And please send it to all the students.
okay,
So, guys, I want you to look at this program because this program is exactly targeted towards you, right? Your age, your potential, so on. And it's very different approach to creating of what I call international business executives. This is what Veronica is now becoming, and she's already working with multiple countries, with talking to multimillionaires and people who manage $500 million funds and those type of things. So, and the Ukraine is going to need a lot of that. People with good English, with understanding of economy, with understanding how to negotiate, how to make a transaction. We are, in Ukraine, there should be thousands of people like me, thousands, right? And I can probably count, maybe 10 that I personally would consider on my level. And that's big problem that you guys can fulfill. With experience that Veronica is getting now, as I told all of our former interns and current employees, you will never ever. It doesn't matter if you go to Harvard or any other university. And Veronica attest to that, so maybe comment on that. You've been with me for what now? We've come for a year or so, right? A year plus, right?
yep.
And just describe your story, just from a personal growth point of view. That's actually I'm gonna good segue into the class actually.
Yeah, firstly, it was like basic things. I worked with them tables and so on. And then in the January, I started working with Henry directly. And then we had a lot of work like with international people. And this work was extremely not that easy for the time, but if I will compare January and September, for example, it is also different work, and now I need to work hardly, but it is more interesting for me. Uh, yeah, probably like that.
But my question was more about your personal growth. Do you experience on your own how you're growing professionally or not? Or
Yeah,
let's
100%. Yep.
So, and basically, like, let's say you quit tomorrow, God forbid, right? Do you have more opportunities or same or less if you did not work here,
More opportunities.
right? So you know now literally hundreds of people, right,
Yep.
that you can connect with,
Yep.
or you know who you are, and
Sure.
that only in last 6 months when you became my executive assistant, right, or
Mm-hmm.
something. Right? So the reason I'm saying that to you guys now is because we are now opening, like Ivan, who's joining our class. He is just finishing his internship with us, and Ivan is going to be becoming full-time business development executive for our organization. So if any of you are interested in entering this world of high-level finance, of deal making, of negotiations, international affairs, Veronica, you can contact Veronica, and she will guide you from there to Anastasia, who's also a graduate of Concordia. She is now general manager for us. She travels all over the world. She is only 25, and she is a phenomenal success story because she was with me already for over 3 years. And she, unlike Veronica, went through the most difficult parts of any startup when it's all chaos. And she survived it. And that's why she is where she is. So I don't care how old you are. You don't need to have an experience. The key is the values you have, your work ethics, right? And the rest is simply things. Again, again, if you're interested, I'm going to be looking for 2 or 3 interns right now. We're going to open Marina also. If you need information on that, Veronica or Anastia can send to you. Because we're going to be enrolling, we are expanding. We need good quality people. It takes us time, as Veronica pointed out, to prepare them. We develop a very simple process, which is about 2 months internships, where you do basic stuff. You're getting to know people, they get to know you, and at the end of that period, we decide do we get married or not, right? So our goal with Veronica on the money side, that Veronica, by hopefully starting already this year, will be entering compensation somewhere 3,000 and above, based on her performance. That's part of the business development world, and she's at the age of 21. Our graphic designer girl we found in Chuguyev, out of all places, right? She's only 19. So
Mhm.
just keep that in mind if you're interested. I want to remind everybody, Aladdin, Alexander, Bogdan, Maxim, I require cameras to be on unless there's a danger or you're unable to, because our guest speakers coming in and so on. So let's start the class. We have a guest speaker coming in this class. So please, when the speaker, I don't care if you're eating, you can just relax and be yourself, but keep the camera on, right? By the way, the speaker who's coming to us is probably a fascinating speaker. And next week, you'll have a big surprise. I can't wait myself for the next speaker, next class, because it is about the future and it's mind-blowing blowing future. And also, I will then, Veronica, please remind me that I want to, after Nicholas speaks next week, I want to send Ukrainian verse for everybody to review.
Mhm.
Aladin, is that how you pronounce your name? Aladin?
Yeah, Aladdin.
Aladin?
My name is Aladdin. Yeah.
Where are you from?
Now I'm from Ukraine.
Oh, you are great. Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, good. Where are you based in? Because it's the first time we're seeing you.
Now I'm living in Germany.
Oh, you're in Germany at the
Yeah.
moment. Excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Welcome to the class. It's only, you only have 2 left, so it's really going to be a very quick semester for you. So
No, I appreciate it.
sure, thank you. So now, guys, let's get to the class. So I want to start our news segment, and I want you to think about your news items. But I want to start with a very basic news, and I'm going to describe the news, and I'm going to ask a question related to the Ukraine. Also, as the guest speaker will speak, Phil, I want you to really make sure that every one of you are ready with at least one question when he speaks, whatever question you want. All right. That's part of us showing the respect to guest speakers by demonstrating we're paying attention, we care what he speaks about, and we are engaged, right, as Ukrainians. Okay, so we obviously there's a very big movement now. We are closer than ever of getting Russian held assets to be used for the Ukrainian needs. So basically, we're taking 170 billion, and the European Union is issuing a bond to Ukraine with zero coupon, meaning there's no interest. And when the war is over and Russia pays the reparations, right, then this bond is being covered. So that's a financial instrument. That's not what we're going to discuss. So now I want you to consider the question I'm about to ask. What does it mean for Ukrainian economy that this is about to go through, and the way it looks, it might be before the year end? And again, the money that's going to be allocated to through this source is the money that will go to cover macro economic needs, meaning, remember, 70, close to 70% of our economy is now financed from outside. So that's the macro financing of government pensions, military salaries, etc. And of course, military stuff. So there's no money out of that will go directly to any businesses, development of projects, unless there's some military infrastructure stuff. So repeat the question: how that news is going to affect our economy now and in the near future? Who wants to go first? Again, the news is $170 billion will be available to cover Ukraine's needs on the macro government level and military level. How does that impact our economic future, short term and long term?
Maybe it's like a lot of buildings are gonna, like the constructions, the business of construction maybe will rise.
How? That doesn't go to the
Because the
construction.
money is invested in Ukraine, and that is
Think about it. That doesn't go, that money doesn't go to construction of buildings, of houses, industrial parks. Daniel?
like other businesses, like businesses in general, I would say.
These funds do not go, they are not what it's called use of capital. This capital is not going to be allocated to development of economic industrial parks, buildings, etc. Capital will only go to cover government needs, to pay salaries, pensions, etc., right? And also will go to military. So how does, Daniel, go ahead.
This will allow to reallocate the current budget which we have for those pensions and salaries for the
Excellent.
government.
Excellent. So some of that, yes, some of the remaining budget can be allocated more towards other social whatever things, right? That's good, but it's very small. Anybody else? Think, people. This is what you're going to be paid to do, to think. You and your generation will not be in the mines of Donbass getting coal. You have to use your brain and think analytically. So let me, if nobody else has, Vanya, did you have something to say? You can try in English, but if you need to, you can switch to Ukrainian. Vanya?
You and me?
Yeah, you
No?
don't, Vanya, we have here.
Okay. For when we in time when we pay the salary to doctors, teachers, soldiers, we increase the customer ability to pay for goods. So it means that we increase the GDP, maybe Ukrainian
Economic
GDP.
activity, absolutely. 100%.
Economic activity, and this is a very big plus for business, not
general stability of the economy.
Yeah.
Right. So that's critical, right? But that's what's called in economics called multiplier effect. Something happens and the effect multiplies downstream. So, but let me give you what I think that means. Okay. So basically, that is a signal, like anything else, that Russia has lost the war. Number one, right? Because if Europe, after almost 4 years, decides to give all their money, that means Ukraine will never run out of ability of military or financial stability of the government. So for Russian side, they have to basically say, fuck that. We have to basically roll back. So that's number one, but he is much more important signal. Remember, who are the investors? Why investors are successful in general? Anyone? People who invest into real estate, in companies, into whatever. Why are they investing? What are they, when they put the money in, what do they expect?
Because they're taking the risk in
the money, they expect the
and in
money
the
to
end they
grow.
want the money.
They expect the money to grow. Yes?
Yeah.
Right? So when is the best time to make the investment?
When prices are low.
One, yes, but everybody see the prices are low, right? Everybody knows Ukraine assets are distressed. What's called in the financial business, distressed asset. Ukraine as a whole is a distressed asset. Okay, so what else? Think again. When do investors want to invest? Before the crowd, with the crowd, or post crowd?
Before.
Before the crowd, right? There's a category you all can Google: distressed asset investors, a whole category of types of investors, right? So this is investors we want now. So imagine what they need from now. Like me and Veronica talked yesterday or 2 days ago with a guy who manages $500 million. The other guy we talked about, he actually in the merger and acquisition business, and he is investing minimum company must be worth 70 million, up to 3 billion. That's the people who are talking to me now. That's the conversations. If you join us, you'll be sitting in and listening and learning. Veronica went through that conversation with with those guys, investors, right? And during our team class, what do you get out of it? They have money. That's the answer Veronica gave. Yes, they do. They do have money, right? But how do we get that money? So remember, investors who come in early on have what? Higher return and higher what? So let me give you an example. If you're entering Ukraine today, you're buying a house for $1,000, right? When you enter, when the war is over, that house is going to worth by how much more? Let's say 10 times. Fair assumption. So investor who comes in at the time when the whistle is blown is paying $10,000 for the same house. And that hopefully will be 3 months later, right? For example. So, but if I put $1,000, what don't I know now during the war? What don't I know as investor?
Whether the house will stay until the
Number
war.
one, I don't know what. What's the biggest thing I don't know?
When I will get my revenue from
When the war will be over. I don't know, sitting today in Kiev, I don't know when the war will be over, tomorrow or 2 years from now. So if I buy a house for $1,000, it costs me utility, taxes, all that stuff, right? That's risk. So when I get higher return, I get higher risk. And what is my job? To get investors in now. Because I'm as a businessman want to participate between that 1,000 to 10,000. Right? That's a 10x growth that can happen in 1 year. Good investment. Right? And I know the market. I have the inside knowledge. I know inside out of Ukraine. I have all the things I need in Ukraine. They don't, but they have the money, which I need. So what do I do in order to convince them to invest now? How do I get them to consider? What do I have to do as investment banker? What do I have to show them in order for them to act now, not 2 years later?
The
Veronica,
potential and the potential actual of the investment, what they can return, the basically ROI, and just tell them the project that potentially can.
no, because they don't care about the potential of the investment. Think about it. The number one priority for any capital allocation is to protect what?
The investment, the funds.
The capital.
Mhm.
I'll come back. One of our local oligarchs, I'll switch a little bit into Russian, is a very big guy, I'm not going to name names. И он говорит: Генри, ты понимаешь, я уже иду с базара, а ты только на него идешь. Так? Что это значит? Ему не надо зарабатывать деньги, у него уже все есть. Он идет с базара, он уже все купил. Очень мудрая мысль. Правильно? Мне же надо было правильно найти ответ, это же, это же моя уже репутация. Я через 2 недели придумал ответ. Я говорю, ты идешь с базара, а я строю новый и приглашаю тебя зайти на него, посмотреть. Извините. Так вот, coming back. So, The reason I'm stating that, so our job, Ivan, we have two Ivans. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. So, Ivan, our job as investment banker is to demonstrate how we're going to reduce that risk. How are we going to reduce that risk for that investor? In order to get him today, because he knows how much he's going to get. But how do we protect what he puts in now? That is the biggest question. In Ukraine, we as a country are Olympic champions of getting people into Ukraine money, but never allowing them to leave the capital. So in all of my couple of decades of experience now, everybody in terms of investment talks about first and foremost, after understanding what the hell is, what is the exit strategy? That is one of the number one priorities for any investor. What is the exit strategy? Do I go public? Is the market liquid? Can I transfer currency from, for example, right now, I cannot get the money out of Ukraine. Big problem, isn't it? Hello, Ilya. Welcome back. Right? Okay. We cannot hear you, but welcome. Let's continue. Okay, by the way, we charge 10 euros per minute when you're late. That's our company policy. So anyhow, coming back, I want to, again, when we are looking at our country has more than standard business risks. Everybody can agree with that. And that level of risk will always be higher because of the neighbor we have. Even post-war, our country risk will be higher than Germany, for example. Right? Keep in mind, what does that mean? That means that our cost of money also will be higher because the risk is higher. Everybody understand that? Yet the returns that companies and investors will get here will be what they call outsized returns. Nobody's looking to invest into Ukraine to gain 10% a year. You can find them investment in America, Germany, everywhere else. Everybody looking to multiply by X their investments in Ukraine over the next decade. Everybody understand that? Today, I can come, it was a great example. We were in conversation yesterday talking about agro land. I forgot what the country was. Anyway, it was $350,000 per hectare, something like that. A hectare of land, agro land. And Yulia on our side goes, in Ukraine, you can find for $3,000 per hectare. Think about it. It is 100x investment capital X. We'll call yes, there's a CapEx, capital expenditures, and OpEx, operational expenditures, right? So on the CapEx, same hectare of land, and I bet that our land is better, right? Is costing 100 times less. They produce the same thing. That the same hectare of land that costs 300. Where would you want to invest? And hello, Phil. I'm just finishing my thought. And the challenge here is very simple. Why do people pay 350 in Germany for a hectare and not putting at 3,000 in Ukraine? And the difference is obviously what? One word.
Is the risk?
Risk.
Yes, Bogdan, good. Is the risk. So today's topic of our class is the entry into the new market. And what we have discussed today, one news that already is absolutely, if it happens, and I pray that it happens, the Russian assets becoming available for Ukraine, which again, and Phil may attest and may have different opinion, will go to cover primarily macro financial needs of the country and military needs. That's pretty much it. None of it will go directly to the local economy. But what it means for us, that for all of the investors around the world, that this is the time to entry, at least in the foreseeable near future. And our job as a company is to make sure we do everything possible in order to reduce their risk so they can capture that outsized return on the entry early on versus when the war is over. Because between now and when the war is over officially, documents are signed and all that, there can be a 10x return between investing now and when you invest when the whistle is blown. Does everybody understand that? So now, without any further ado, I'm a minute late. Phil, welcome to our class. And Phil Hatch and I have met very recently. We were introduced by a very respectable four-time mayor and a very great man, Alexander Vladimirovich Mazurchak. Phil has a fascinating story. And most importantly, Phil is working on exactly what we're going to discuss in this class about entering the new market, because what he is world expert in is human resource development. And we as a country are not able, even think about without addressing that issue. And that's why you're all here. And that's why I'm teaching you here, because I'm addressing the need that Phil is going to talk about today. So Phil, I'm off to you, your show. I'm going to shut up. And after that, you have about 20-25 minutes and then Q&A. Phil, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted. I'm sure you have a great voice. You guys want to hear it too.
Hang on. There, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Okay, so first up, can you tell me what is this class? What is the?
This is the master. Well, Marina, what is this class? I don't want to misspeak. I don't know.
It's master students, practicum in international trade.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I wasn't quite sure, and so I put together some slides. And we can stick with it. We can go around. We can answer questions. I'm pretty easy there. I love speaking with students. I love questions. So let's go through it. A little background on me. I ran a group for UBS Investment Bank for almost 10 years that was their primary emerging market research and market entry and problem-solving entity. I bought out UBS from this company we created together, and I sold it to Manpower Group, which is the largest global staffing recruiting company. Like, they place over 1 million people a year in jobs. And I became a senior executive with them, and got heavily involved in doing economic and workforce development. The two are closely tied, even more so now than ever before. I was CEO of Manpower India. I've worked in over 50 countries around the world, and away we go. Got a long history in Ukraine. I was brought to Ukraine 20 years ago by Vice Prime Minister to write the economic and workforce development plan for Ukraine. But the government wasn't stable at the time, and so things kept falling apart. But I've got a lot of experience here over the years. I'm still in Ukraine. I'm in Ukraine right now. I was asked to come back after the invasion by the U.S. State Department, see if I could help. So I'm walking around and talking to people. I'd like to go ahead and share my deck. And again, I mentioned this before, but I wasn't sure the exact topic for the meeting. So I prepared some basic comments. A couple of things do fit into market entry and investments, these kinds of things. And I can certainly give it that kind of that spin. But a couple of key things we do need to talk about. So if you don't mind, let's jump in and go from there. So first up, I do need to talk about what's happening around the world. So everybody's heard of ChatGPT and these types of tools, right? This is nothing new, right? Okay. You're probably all using them. It's a much bigger deal than people understand. It's not just AI, it's everything. So one is we're expecting that these tools, we call it Industry 4.0. These tools are going to make obsolete over 1.4 billion current jobs. It's like jobs that were in high demand over the last 10, 20 years, okay? We're also looking at these tools are creating the demand for an entirely new workforce. It's everything, okay? And we can't transition enough people fast enough, and we're looking at a shortage of skilled talent. People coming out of school now to understand how to use AI, how to use these new things. We're going to have a shortage of over 85 million people by the end of this decade. And it's going to cost global employers between $8.5 to $15 trillion in revenues. So that shortage is already starting to hit now, and the global economy is already suffering. Revenues are already impacted by over $1 trillion to $2 trillion a year. It's pretty crazy. They are going to change everything related to the economy, to the workforce, to everything. So one of the key things that I need to call out is that we're getting into a moment now where elite workers is where it's at. It doesn't matter the price of the worker anymore. So the demand for workers is for elite Industry 4.0 enabled workers, well over low cost. And we're seeing that in hiring patterns. Did you guys see the news? Facebook was offering $100 million bonuses to AI engineers, over the last 2 months. It's crazy. Like, I tell you what, if I knew AI, I'd be back in Facebook applying for a $100 million grant, bonus. The last point to this is that we don't really know what the future is. We know it's going to be completely different, but the fact is, it's like the early days of the internet. People came up with all these crazy ideas and how things are going to work. We got a lot of it wrong. And so over the next decade to 2 decades, we're going to see a lot of turn. It means a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, it's just in the back of your heads. If you're students, I would expect that this is going to be, the theme is going to be lifelong learning and staying, current with what's going on. It's not just about going to university and you're done. It's ongoing skills development and learning for basically the rest of your life. I do want to talk just a little bit more about how advanced this stuff is. Just some things that are just mind-blowing. So Google, they have a research AI platform, and there's a big debate going on right now if that platform has reached singularity. And so that term is how the AI community describes the moment that AI becomes self-aware. This is like Terminator, type stuff here. It's absolutely insane. Matrix type movies, coming to reality. We're at that now. This is not 100 years from now or 50 years from now. This stuff is happening now, okay? Another point is that robots in agriculture, mining, and manufacturing, and most other industries are already cheaper than the lowest cost labor in Africa, okay? I spent a lot of time doing stuff in Africa. One of the big challenges we had is that when somebody comes through and they're building a new manufacturing facility or a new big farm, it's cheaper to hire, to buy robots, or more cost effective to buy robots and let them produce than it is to hire local talent, local people. Just one more point that's just absolutely mind-blowing is that Google will spend over $3.5 billion this year on AI processing and related electricity for the data centers. That's it. $3.5 billion in electricity bill. So just give you an idea how big this stuff is. And if we look at just the United States, for example, if we take our robotics, AI, all these types of tools, and we look at the companies that are leading those charges, and we look at all their partners and these others that are involved with them, the United States will spend over $500 billion this year in research, and that might go up in infrastructure development, and that might go up by another $250 to $300 billion next year. So $750 billion next year. The money and the effort that's going into the space is absolutely incredible right now. Okay. But it is changing things. And there are some things we know. There's a really great story that came up almost 10 years ago. So Nike, pretty crazy brand. The COO at the time was a guy named Eric Splunk. And he was in this big conference, and they just really announced the Flyknit shoes. You guys know what the Flyknit shoes were? Ever seen those things? It's the funky pattern looking things. Anyway, Nike 3D printed those shoes. They're not traditionally made. Okay, that was Nike's the first real shoe that was made with 3D printing. And so Eric was talking about this, and some of the audience jumped in and said, "Well, if you can 3D print shoes, how long is it until people can print it at home?" And Nike, the CEO disclosed that they're working there right now. We're approaching a moment very soon where you can simply scan your foot and then either order a pair to be printed for you, or if you have the right equipment at home, print the shoe yourself. That's coming, okay? And with that type of delivery model, you start to think that manufacturing, a lot of these types of traditional businesses that have driven our global economy for the last 100 years, it's obsolete. So what we're finding is that, and then the Nike CEO made the comment that the future of business is IP, and the future of Nike is intellectual property, okay? So keep that in mind. Intellectual property is now king. That's the ruler of the world moving forward, okay? I have a good friend of mine. He's a big shot in business and politics, a guy named David Arkless. He's made several speeches, and he's talked about that if you think about the oil-rich economies like Dubai or Saudi Arabia, with people driving around in Ferraris and Mercedes, Rolls-Royce, the future bright economic stars can be those that produce IP. The 20 years from now, 30 years from now, the rich kids driving around in a $100 million supercar are going to be, inside those cities, those communities where they're producing the top IP in the world. That's the goal. Okay. That is the secret. Okay. Questions so far? It's all pretty basic. Okay. Right now, the global economy will probably end 2025 at about $111 trillion. Okay. GDP total. These technologies, because they're changing the way that things are working. Okay. So just an example, People Republic of China is racing towards something called dark factories. It's where they have no workers working inside these plants at all. They are replacing everything with automation, AI, robotics, and no people inside them at all. So they don't turn on the lights. That's why they call them dark factories. But China is expecting to lose 100 million manufacturing jobs in the next 10 years because of these. That's, you think about that, losing 100 million jobs is catastrophic, but China is doing it because they know they can no longer be competitive. They can't be competitive with an AI robotic, factory sitting in the suburbs of London or New York or some other place where you don't have to pay for tariffs and shipping, those kinds of things. So with that, everything's being fractured right now. So we're looking at least 50% of $111 trillion is going to be redefined in the next decade. So that is an incredible opportunity for places like Ukraine and others to come through and become a new leader. Like, those roles have not been finalized yet. There is an opportunity that we need to go after. Okay.
Phil, I want to jump in here. Follow-up question is why Ukraine has such a big opportunity, as you just mentioned, versus countries?
This is where I'm a mathematician and economist by training, and I really like numbers and I really like research, and so I've got a massive amount of data to go through it. But what we do know is this: Ukraine, before the invasion, the tertiary education rate inside of Ukraine was at 83%, and that puts you among the top 20 in the world. Okay. Now, adding to that is that you have a very high STEM education rate, so science, technology, engineering, math. And you combine those together, and it puts Ukraine into one of the top 5 economies that have the raw ingredients to be a superstar inside of this Industry 4.0 type of a world. Okay. Now, we also have some other assets here. The name of the game is getting involved in doing industry type solutions or functional role solutions. It's not necessarily building a new AI engine. It's finding out how to use that stuff inside of industry. Okay. And so just little examples here. We have Ukraine has an extremely lengthy history of agriculture, among the best in the world, right? Black soil, it's famous. The robotic agriculture industry alone is going to be between $50 to $100 billion in the next decade, and nobody's leading that charge. And so we start looking at the raw ingredients that are inside of Ukraine, and we've got the capability to go after those types of solutions and really go crazy. The fact is that given one more dynamic is that the world is also in a grip of a massive skilled talent shortage. And so if you look at the United States, UK, Poland, Germany, France, Italy, a few others, Japan, the existing labor shortage in those countries is larger than the entire Ukrainian labor force. It's over 17 million people. Okay. And so the other challenge we've got is not only do we need educated, tech-enabled, mechanical kind of workers to drive a lot of the innovation, but we need people. And you simply can't find them anywhere inside of the other developed economies right now. And so you look at theoretical growth based off of underutilization of resources. And bear with me on this one. Russia technically, before this invasion, had the biggest upside for growth, but they will never reach it. They have ruined any possible opportunity, and they've been doing so for years. And so we look at theoretical growth of Industry 4.0 type industries. In Ukraine, before the invasion, was looking at having enough theoretical capacity to be the top growth market in the world. And if you want me to break down that data, I've got it. That's a 2-hour conversation. I can go through it with you. Ukraine's got an incredible opportunity, but there are also some challenges that we'll talk about. Okay? Fair? Okay, big one up is that Ukraine right now is at a tipping point. Ukraine will be a $1 trillion economy. Okay, you have at least 13 to 15 trillion dollars in rare earth minerals inside the ground, and you've got massive agriculture output that the world needs. The question, though, is what will Ukraine be? Okay, is it going to become a farm and a mine? And that's it? That's the low end. Or is it going to take people like you, students like you, and really go forth and become a high EP economy with a true global leadership position inside of key industries? Okay. Now, as much as I would like to say that I could define that, or Henry or others, it really is students like you that are going to define that future. It's not us. It's your decision. Okay.
I call it the next generation.
It is. It is. Okay. I can certainly give guidance, and I can set up programs and things that help drive towards this. At the end of the day, it's yours. You collectively believe you're going to do it, and you will. If you collectively don't believe you're going to do it, then Ukraine is going to become a farm and a mine. Okay? Fair? But there are some challenges. We have to talk about some things. Ukraine has incredible potential, but it has not performed traditionally very well. This is before the invasion, okay? And so the economy should be between $500 billion to $800 billion right now, not 150 to 160 billion before the invasion. And we know why. Back to that slide I was talking about, where intellectual property is the new currency of the world. Ukraine isn't really producing any, and that's a big problem, okay? You've got the capability. You have the education to do this. You have students coming out of universities that have intellectual property, the capability to produce intellectual property, but the problem is they're leaving. They're going to the United States or going to Poland or Israel or other places. We need to keep people home and start building towards that, okay? So just some more examples. If we look at IP licensing per capita, intellectual property, the gold that we need to be working with right now is that for the year before, during the invasion, the year after the invasion, Ukraine ranked between Kazakhstan and Namibia. This is not a representation of the capability of Ukraine. And by the way, I'm going to give Ukraine some love here in a second. Let me get to this one slide. I'm going to tell you some good things here, okay? But it's also researchers per million is pretty low. Patent applications per resident is low. Ukraine is not inserting and driving intellectual property-based economy, and we need to, if we're going to turn Ukraine into that high IP star of the world, okay? You've got the skills. This is my love. At the time of the invasion, between different companies and projects I've been involved with, I had over 2,500 employees inside of Ukraine, okay? I've been involved in several different businesses, set up a company here. I've done a lot of policy advisory work. I set up programs at universities and others. I've had teams all over the world. I was the CEO of Manpower India, right? I had teams there. I had people in Colombia and Philippines and everywhere else. My team in Ukraine, the people that I've hired and the people who work for me inside of Ukraine have been the best in the world that I've ever worked with, okay? Now, part of it's personal style. I just... how we work, how I pretend to work meshes well with Ukrainian culture. But you've got absolutely incredible capability. I'll give you one example of this. Israel is a booming tech industry, tech economy. They're going to clear probably $15,000 to $20,000 in tech exports per capita this year. Ukraine will do about 150. Okay, so they're significantly more than Ukraine. The problem is that half of the Israeli tech industry are ex-Soviet citizens. It's the ex-CIS states. It's Ukrainian Jewish people that have went to school in Kharkiv and Kyiv, Lviv, and others, and immigrated down to into Israel to drive the economy.
And I'm making a bet, as you know, that many of them will be coming back.
Yeah, we hope so. We hope so. But they were there before the invasion even, right? So we need to get a lot of them to come back and really start building this up. But more importantly, everybody in this video, everybody in this class, we need to keep you. Stay here and change the future. So there is something that's going on right now. Major companies around the world are forming these collaborative teams. And so the one that I've got up here is Microsoft has pulled together an agriculture technology conversation group, okay? And they are working with companies like Bayer, John Deere, everybody. And they're defining the future of that industry. It's not just robotics, it's not just AI, but what does that industry look like? What is the entire value chain, like the supply chain, distribution, logistics, energy? what is the role of the marketing person and the accountant inside of this new world, inside of agriculture within Industry 4.0? We've got big ideas and things that are happening right now, and we need to start inserting people like you into these conversations to get the basic information we need to go run with. Okay. So one of the top things that I've seen all over the world, like I spent some time working at Kazakhstan, and they get a massive sovereign investment fund, right? It's massive. And they're dumping money into doing startups. And so you've got these people that might have gone through and got a coding degree, a software development degree, and they're doing startups for energy or agriculture or healthcare. The problem is they've never worked in those industries before. How do you know what to solve if you've never worked in the industry before, right? We need to start getting people into this mindset of looking at these types of companies and partnering up with them. And then to that, my advice, and I'll shut up, I'll start taking questions. And I'm gearing this towards the student side of you. Okay. This is, right now in this crazy world, you're hearing all these stories. How do I get a job? What's my career going to be like? Those kinds of things. And so, got some advice. Number one is just accept the fact you're going to be a lifelong learner. This is not over. You're not done. You're going to be constantly taking classes and learning new things, and things we think that you should know now and you learn, we might find out in 3 years that it's obsolete. There's something other that comes along. It's just the way that it's going to be. Second up is pick an industry that you're passionate about. Healthcare, it could be entertainment or retail or construction, energy, it doesn't matter. Pick one that you're passionate about. Then go get an entry-level job or get a functional job inside of that. So for example, if you're a marketing student or you're in accounting or legal, go get that functional role inside that company. We start talking about Industry 4.0, people talk about innovation with AI and robotics, those kinds of things. But the reality is most of the spend over the next decade to 2 decades is not going to be in development of AI. It's marketing people retooling all of marketing to use AI. It's going to be people reinventing accounting and law industry and healthcare and these kinds of things. Okay. So go get into those industries, learn everything you can about it. Really study the industry and what's taking place, but also study your functional role inside that space. And then definitely study how these new technologies are changing everything. Then as you start to get that resource base, if you become an agent of change and somebody who's leading the transition, it's going to guarantee that you have a job, but it's also going to be significant for Ukraine. And my last one is this: we need to stay in Ukraine. There's incredible opportunity here. Stay. Learn everything you can about these different industries and start constantly learning and brainstorming how you can transform functional roles like marketing or operations or things like this, but also these industries, and start leading that change inside of Ukraine. And if we do that, Ukraine's got a very bright future. And that takes me to the end.
Thank you very much. Great stuff. Great stuff. All right. I'm going to ask you the first question. You can stop sharing the screen. And guys, obviously, Phil has a global experience, and I want to personally thank you for your passion for Ukraine. It's I know we're going to have many more conversations, but I can see the first conversation. So that's great, and we thank you as Ukrainians, I guess, for what you do for our country. So my big question is this, Phil, is that from the perspective of the transformation you're describing, okay, in your suggestion for Ukraine, what is like in 3, 4, or 5 bullet points?
Okay, for Ukrainians or for Ukraine?
Well, it's probably the same, but yeah, for Ukraine, I would say more than.
It's a bigger challenge. So one is that the gap between the current research and development in new technologies and the application of those technologies in industry, that gap is exploding away from Ukraine. It's been doing so for about the last 10 years. The most important thing that we can possibly do is start getting those companies involved, working with Ukrainian academia, the Ukrainian companies, and Ukrainians, and start closing that gap. Okay. And the argument that I've got is that if we go out to those big companies, like if we go to Microsoft and say, hey, partner with us to do R&D, Microsoft gets hundreds of those proposals every day. It's very difficult to sell against that. But we've got the capability of creating a workforce because we have capacity that Microsoft needs. And so if we start there, that is the start, by the way. So we start looking at things like Amazon and others, when they start doing major R&D centers and expanding out, the first thing they're looking for is the workforce. And so if we start bringing those companies in and working with us to build the workforce we need, give you guys additional training, start putting money into it, then we can start to nurture that along into doing real R&D and significant more investment, a lot more FDI than just simply hiring people. It's the most powerful thing we can do. It's the most powerful tool to drive foreign direct investment out there. It's the people.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, guys, questions. Who's going first?
I can go first.
Fire away.
Ivan, I love your initiative. Always first. Go ahead.
First of all, thanks for your presentation.
Yeah.
And my question would be mostly about the AI, and I just want to know your personal opinion, especially as AI is significantly progressing.
Yep.
Don't you think that it's better just to get involved and work with an AI and not as the
if we look at statistically, we look at the spend that okay, now bear with me on this one. This is a lot of very smart people that are making this stuff up. We really don't know. Okay. We have guesses. And I think they're maybe plus minus 20% accurate. Okay. But we think that the money that's coming in is not in developing core AI. And it's certainly not in language learning models or LLM. That stuff is old. We're now into super intelligence. It's a completely different thing. Okay. That is going to be dominated by 4 or 5 companies, and 3 of them are inside the United States. So unless you're camped out at Palo Alto in Google or at Anthropic or Microsoft, one of these types of companies, it's going to be very difficult to get into that space. Okay, but the bigger spend is not on developing those core technologies; it's learning how to use those technologies in marketing to
application level, guys. Application level,
nursing, healthcare, or financial markets and banking, those kinds of things. And so I would highly recommend everybody get into AI, but I would do it within the context, unless you're a core developer and a hardcore technology guy and mathematician, I would highly recommend that not try to focus on getting into that space. But what you do is you take those technologies, understand what they are, and then start figuring out how to transform the agriculture industry or marketing or legal professions, those kinds of things. That's where the money is going to be.
But do you think that the artificial intelligence will cover all the jobs, or there are some part that it's
well, Ivan, let me a second. That's a good your second question. By the way, we have 1 question per person. There's other people on the call, but great follow-ups on Ivan. Great question and follow-up. And Ilya wrote the question Ilya has is basically in next 10, 20 years, what jobs what industries more specifically will be most impacted by AI?
Every job is going to be impacted by AI. But it's not just AI. You have to include robotics and IoT and everything else inside of this. Okay, every single one will be impacted. Okay, so we've got just by the end of this decade. Okay, let's call it current jobs. Jobs up to today, not jobs.
Phil, I apologize before you continue. Yeah. He's just to clarify his question. Completely replaced by AI, not impacted by. I misspoke. Completely replaced.
What jobs will be completely replaced by AI?
That was Ilya's question. Yes.
Not necessarily completely replaced, but completely transformed. Okay. And so, but again, it's not just AI, it's robotics and everything else. Okay. So we need far fewer people making things on an assembly line. We need people that can maintain and fix and work with robotics. Okay. It's, have you guys played around with the different AI tools to make songs like Suno, AI, those types of things? Okay. So I have 2 university kids, and just for some reason, I think that my job as a father is to annoy them the most I can possibly annoy them. And so I've been making them songs because I think it's pretty funny and they're pretty mad at me for it, right? They're pretty sick of it. Okay. So I can get a tool to make me a song. I have no musical ability whatsoever, and the song sounds pretty good, but I have to have the idea for the song in the first place. Okay. And so it's that innovation, those ideas and understanding what's going on that we are decades away from AI being able to replace. Okay. So it's innovation. It's, that dreaming big, those kinds of things, that's still a critical issue. So that's going to be there. But fact is that every job is going to be affected by this stuff, every single one.
Yep.
So.
Thank you. Next question, Veronica. Oh, who had a question? I'm sorry, Anton. Veronica, you next.
Yeah, actually, at the beginning of your presentation, you said that Google already spends about 3.5 billion for electricity for the AI. And actually, we all know that AI servers actually consume a lot of resources already. That's why my question is, do you think there will be a possibility of regulations for AI usage, actually? I mean, on government level.
The challenge that we've got is we have kind of two worlds, right? Well, three. We've got two that count when we start talking about AI. We have the West, right? I'm going to put Ukraine strongly into this. It's Europe, United States, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, that the Western world, the friends, okay? And then we've got China and Russia working with China on that side. And the problem we've got is that if we slow things down and regulate it, China will not. Okay, so there's a massive fear. Now we've got two things that are going on right now. You've got Google, Microsoft, and several OpenAI that are just going, fast forward. Then we've also got Anthropic, which is a very important company. If you don't know who Anthropic is, check them out. But they are ex-OpenAI executives. It's a brother and sister that started this, absolute genius people. But they're really working on the ethical side of this. And it's not just about regulation, but it's also things like we might be orphaning most of the workers in Africa. How do we go and guarantee those guys have jobs? Those kinds of things too. So, I don't know. We can clamp
We
it
don't know
down,
a lot
but
of
it's
things. What we do know, it's going to change. The change is
is.
coming.
It's
Like,
already changing. Yep.
right, exactly. So Veronica, your last question for Phil. We're gonna let him go.
Okay. So you mentioned that around 50% of the global economy will be redefined in the next decade. So, what specific industries do you think Ukraine has the best chance to lead in during this transformation?
Well, that's a very long answer. So we have some obvious ones. Okay. You've got 15 to 32 trillion dollars of the rare earth minerals inside of the ground. You've also got significant agriculture boost. And so you're going to get a lot of jobs and economic growth coming from those. But that doesn't necessarily mean AI, robotics, big innovation kind of things. But it should. If we go through reconstruction of Ukraine and built these massive mines and things, we have also not turned Ukraine into the Industry 4.0 or R&D center for that industry. We failed. Massive opportunity missed.
Phil, wouldn't that be exactly the opportunity to use that natural resource and to bring innovations, sustainability, and the rest of it that will spark the rest of the growth in the IP level?
Yeah, I mean, the workforce needed to do. Let's just stick with mining for a second, okay? But it's agriculture, it's energy, construction, and several other key industries that are going to be really impacted during reconstruction. We don't have actually, I'm going to go to energy because I know the numbers off the top of my head, okay? We have a shortage of 7 million energy workers right now in the world, 7 million, okay? The workforce that Ukraine needs to rebuild the energy infrastructure within a smart grid, renewable type context doesn't exist in aggregate anywhere in the world. And so if we do not build out training programs in partnership with the largest energy companies in the world, then we have failed, okay? But they are going to do that because if we don't build that workforce here, they can't get billions of dollars in revenues. There's nobody to do the work.
And that's what Phil sold me on, right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And so it's
this is where I have spent decade, and this is why it's important to I will Phil started always learning, and I'm coming back to in a second, is that I have never thought in all the years I've been working towards what I'm doing from that angle. And that field really kind of, changed my opinion how the best way to bring those big guys into this. And that's not through what I have done, which is really much needed for them anyway. But the entry point is exactly the human resource. And the more I hear Phil talk, the more I convinced I become. And I'll give you the last question. I saw give it to Veronica, but you raised your hand. So.
Thank you. I noticed such tendencies that every, for example, 2 years, old music stuff become popular. Don't you think that in 5 years AI will be not popular for use in ordinary life because people wanted to see realistic photos, videos, and
Okay. So yes, I'm that way. Okay. So I like looking, I'm kind of a nerdy guy. I like watching documentaries and things. So if I get on YouTube and it's an AI video, I hate it. I like dislike, okay. So I'm the same thing. Okay. I still like, I'm an old school guy. I like the 1960s and 70s music, these kinds of things. It's authentic, right? So AI stuff just drives me nuts. But, and so to your point, I think that's true, but that's not actually the majority of language learning model or LLM stuff or generative AI today. Most of generative AI is being used like I'll write a report and then I'll ask ChatGPT to go down through and just error correct it, validate it like a peer review, those kinds of things. It's being used all over the place in business. It's so there's a lot that's going on there, but we've got an entirely new thing that's coming, and that's called super intelligence. Okay, so generative AI, people really started getting excited about that about 10 years ago. And so even though we're much more powerful now than we were 10 years ago, this is a technology and idea that was generated 10 to 15 years ago. This is old tech. The new thing is super intelligence. And that's where we become, it's a very spooky thing. It's everything. It's not just about writing songs, making pictures, or editing Instagram posts, those kinds of things. It's about full automation of everything around us. It's incredibly powerful. It's exciting, but it's scary as hell as well.
It is scary as hell, but it is very exciting.
Yep.
It just and I want to. I feel first again. Thank you. I know we took more time than we expected, but it was fascinating, great. And I want to point out to the reason I do what I do and I love what I do, passionate as you can always see, is because on every day I meet people like Phil, who I have not met before, who brings new perspective to my life. And that's why, if you want to succeed in life, I recommend for you to consider working with Economy of Trust, and as Veronica doing already. And me and Phil, hopefully, we start working on a bunch of things together as well.
Big plans together.
Yes, and by the way, I will send you.
Respect is likewise. You're
I
a great
will
guy.
send you, Phil. I will send you a real world assets tokenization paper I wrote as a draft to review before a call on Saturday. But guys, Phil, thank you again, and I really appreciate you taking time on Thursday night. So
All right,
thank
no
you.
worries, no worries. I love doing this. This is one of the joys of my job is speaking with students. So,
Thank you.
all right, thanks.
Soon. All right.
Have a good day.
So
Good night.
thank you. Talk soon. So guys, I'm gonna come to the obviously the summary of the class and the entry for this, but obviously it is. I'm just sitting myself and listening and being so just getting goosebumps because of the opportunity that Phil is describing, and I have as entrepreneur. I never work at the level Phil worked, right? 20 years ago, Phil would not even notice me, right? Just simply. Today, I am the guy who hustle on the streets of Kiev. They come to my office, people like Phil, and it's amazingly validation of the model we have built in Ukraine, which we're going to talk about, exactly for the topic of this class, for market entry, right? So, what do you guys think? Anybody has an opinion on Phil? What is your gut feeling telling you? Christina, did you like it?
Yes, I liked it, and I like when people are talking about perspectives of Ukraine. And actually had a question about he mentioned that Ukraine can become like top 5 economies, and should Ukraine trust in private companies but in my opinion, government should also change in order these companies work here, and it will be much faster with the government help and proactive position, because what we see now is not really working when we are thinking of Ukrainian government. So there should be changes up there in order to be able to work effectively here with small businesses and stuff like that.
Okay, great. I want you to remember all one phrase, and Veronica heard me say this already 1,000 times. Ukraine will be the first country in the world that will integrate physical and digital infrastructure. The reason what we have built, and the reason I have been able to get to the level where BlackRocks are listening to me, is because of the vision that I had, which I had back in 2014 after this. And the reason I'm stressing this now is because Ukraine represents an opportunity where all of those best technologies, the latest technologies in the world, can be integrated without dealing with the legacy infrastructure. Because our country, 95% of it is undeveloped. It's undeveloped. And that allows us to start from scratch the right way instead of rebuilding it. And that's the opportunity for all of you. And Phil's point is 100% target. I tell Veronica and their, people who work with us in her age, they lead this. You guys are sitting at the best seat at the table. At the best seat at the table at the time where the whole world is supporting us because of the price we're paying. We as a country, our biggest asset. Let me ask you just a question before I get to the topic of the class. What is the biggest asset of Ukraine today, in your opinion?
People, brave people.
Well, that's obviously people is everything, but that's not the asset in the definition I'm looking for. Natural resources are assets, right? And so on. But people, of course, are number one asset always, as Phil just said. But let's go beyond people. Anyone? I guarantee that if right, I'm going to tell you this in a second, right, that none of you even thought about this can be the biggest asset the country has. The biggest asset the country has today, it's its brand. Brand that Ukraine was before the war. I travel all over, right? So it was country that is known for war, corruption, and prostitution. That was our brand. Yeah, everybody knows European breadbasket and all that stuff. Today, Ukraine is defender of freedom and democracy. Very different brand, isn't it? And that is our biggest asset that we must protect. And add to that two words, right? Freedom and democracy, innovation and technology. We are leaders today in technology of AI. Drones, think about it. We transform the warfare as we know it. All of the trillions that have been invested by Americans of the world into tanks and planes and all that crap is no longer relevant. Think about that. The war in Ukraine, as terrible as it is, have made, I don't know how, I don't even know how to estimate that. Majority of existing weaponry irrelevant. And that's during the war. That's how creative we are as Ukrainians. And as I travel the country, we as Ukraine don't know what we have. I'm telling you, I'm working with 672 mayors. So, coming back to the market entry point of the class, I want to give you, as we started the class, was remember getting investors, the risk, all of that stuff, right? And right now, the key is, everybody hope now understands, that reduction of that risk. Human resource development is a reduction in risk. So company, before entering and committing a lot of capital, must understand they have an ability to have a workforce they're going to need, and that workforce takes time to develop. So if I want to build a multi-billion-dollar factory and I need 300 workers, I better start looking for and training those workers now. Everybody understand the basis, right? So now I want to just very quickly go to a very simple thing, and I'll come back to much more realistic stuff. So the class is basically how to enter the market, right? And I used Ukraine. First of all, market research and localization, right? You have to do a lot of work to really understand nuances of a local market. I am always sharing this on the calls. I was born here. I speak the language. Even when I just moved in 2017, I already had a big network. Today it's way, way bigger, but I had a very big network of people. And I was shocked. And I worked for 20 years back and forth, just not full time, obviously, but in Ukraine. And when I moved full time to Kiev in 2017, I was shocked how little I understood the actual real business culture of Ukraine. I was naive, beyond naive. So how people who are coming from outside the Ukraine, who don't have the language, network, etc., how do they think they feel? Right? That's the big problem we're gonna solve. So got to do research before making any market, including sorry, I'm gonna share the screen in a second. But coming legal and regulatory compliance. Ukraine is a breadbasket. Absolutely, this is the worst thing for any investors when we don't have a stable judicial system. We don't have a legal and regulatory environment that allows for stability. Everybody, I hope, agree with that. Certification and standards. One of the biggest opportunities business-wise and the biggest need is all of the industries, professions must be recertified, reskilled, and retrained under European Union standards. Massive need, massive opportunity, and massive understanding that when you want to do business, even if you're Ukrainian, launching a business, everything you have to do in your business must be under umbrella of Ukraine being a future member of European Union, and you as a company already all complying with all the standard certifications, etc. Strategic partnership by entry mode, and that is the key. So part of our model, as we're going to discuss in a second, is any international company coming in need the Ukrainian company. That's why I'm going to share the screen right now. So if you look at this slide right here, right, this is the best slide of the deck. Ukraine is not financeable as a country, as a municipality, as a project, as a business. That's why Epicenter, New Belong, they all partnering with us because we have ability to do all this and this. These guys, international business, brings us three things: management know-how, financial, operational history of success, and distribution outside Ukraine. That is must-have for the investment, right? And the PPP is the instrument who will reduces risk for all of the stakeholders. All of those elements I must have in order to complete a transaction. Now, coming back to the next thing, operational setups, the plastic logistics chain. So let me explain to you with the next slide. With the next slide, we have our consortium development model. So let's assume that you and I are building a new smart city, right? So we need to look at energy and water and waste, all from generation to usage. So we have come up, and this is where innovation comes in, because AI would never probably suggest anything that we're doing now. And that's what I have skill in. I'm a pretty creative guy. So I have come up with a solution where we take, this is actual project, this is our energy consortium, okay? And energy consortium is basically we broke down the whole sector into generation, storage, and all the way to telecommunications. Under each one, we figure out what our functionalities are needed in that segment of the supply chain or supply process. Then we identify 5 to 10 companies, each of them, as you can see, total, I mean, world class, right? And then we select one. We're gonna have a competition between them. Today we had discussed the selection process. So think about it. I'm sitting, and I am this with people who are way smarter than I am. One of our members is also board member, is a former president of IKEA. So you understand, great guy, Lars Persson. Maybe I'll ask him to join our, maybe in the last class. Actually, Veronica, please remind me, I want to ask Lars to join us because I want him to talk about the values in the last class. Okay, Veronica? We are sitting in those calls, and I am the one that leading a discussion of how to select the companies, in terms of select criteria for the companies that are multi-billion, multinational, blah, blah, blah. Right? Just think about it. I'm a guy who grew up on these streets. And you guys have this right now in front of you, this opportunity of a lifetime. So in order to get to the market, anyone entering needs a partner. And this is our consortium model, allowing us to bring in energy sector 30 plus minus companies. Half of additional 15 would be in Ukrainian because for implementation. So we are partnering those big companies with our local experts of how to do business in Ukraine, including their own vertical, right? To go get a permit here for international company is a lottery, to be honest, right? We know how to deal with it, and we need to have that, and we're doing it at scale. So now the key is energy consortium, water, waste, hospitality, education, so on. We are moving it together. For example, today we have a good news. Nebulon, the biggest agro company, is our partner, becoming our partner. Epicenter is already our partner. DTAC, right? Why do I need Nebulon? They're not even going to pay me anything at the moment. Because Nebulon are going to be a phenomenal, like an Epicenter, partner for hundreds of companies that need to enter the agro sector. And I'm the one who's giving them that corridor. Epicenter today, actually, I got to call Andre, right? Is hopefully tomorrow will be applying with us and Sweco, $2.2 billion Swedish company, for a $350 million project, park they're building in Horodok, Khmelnytskyi region. That's what we do every day. And now I want to show you the last thing in here, okay, is this, right? This is what we focus on, guys. This is opportunity Phil talked about. We're going to build cities as a business. We are talking about autonomous microgrids, energy grids, that not only bring benefits, security, efficiency, all of that stuff, but allows the municipality to set its own rates. So municipality can say, hey, the company come and build here in industrial park, I'll give you a year free electricity. It is amazing the opportunity that is here in front of you. So, and obviously coming back to the topic of the class, entry to the market, right? This is what we as a company working on completely all the time. And our job is to minimize, that's the last point of market entry, as I started this class, is to, number one priority, is to reduce risk. And as Lassie have said on the last call, right, on the last class we had, the most important pill is trust. That's hence the name of our company, Economy of Trust. I want Ukrainian economy to be known as economy everybody can trust. Think how radical it is from our corruption statute. Every mayor, every business who wants to talk to me, to be part of what we do, to get the money, to get the projects, to get the companies, to create jobs, must go through anti-corruption certification. A must, not a must. And guys, I grew up in Bessarabke, здесь, Kyiv. I know with anti-corruption course, we will not kill corruption in Ukraine. But my job as a business developer, as an international business developer, is to demonstrate to the audience who have the money, technologies, and resources that we are doing the right steps towards fixing that. And that starts with you, because you're the next generation. So I'll give you a very good news, Veronica. You're going to Denmark and Sweden. And that's the benefit to you for the great work and proof that you have done. She's going to be joining us on a trade mission with 30 plus mayors, bunch of businesses, top government officials, Denmark and Sweden, right? And hopefully you watch me on LinkedIn, right? By the way, I recommend for all of you to connect with Phil on LinkedIn, okay? The excitement part about it, as I said, don't miss your chance. If you're interested in pursuing something new, start now in AI, with us, with whatever. But don't sit and wait till you get a goddamn diploma. Nobody cares about your goddamn diploma. It's a piece of paper that I showed some of I have 2 diplomas, my master's degree from Bentley University, my magna cum laude of University of Massachusetts. Nobody gives a shit. So all the education you're getting today, right, and the paper you will get is irrelevant unless you go out starting today and do something about it. Make sense? We are going to bring Harvards in here, MITs, all of those universities will be here. That's what me and Phil working on. We are going to work directly with the biggest companies of the world, Amazons, right, of the world. The guy I'm speaking to next week, Evan, he built with Elon Musk Tesla factory. Veronica was on that call, right? That's the people we want in this country. That's the people I want you to be involved with. Right? Again, I want to stress with you, it's not the money that we're going to make that motivates me at all. Because if I'm this little right, I know today that I'm way more than right than that. I have no idea how to even evaluate how much we're worth. It's not about that. It's about pursuit of the mission, of your personal mission, whatever that is. That's what you got to get on, that train. And if you are passionate about what you do, it might not be easy. It never is. But the money is a result of your performance based on the mission you're pursuing. Everybody understand that? On that very positive, I think, motivational note, I want to bid you goodbye, and I'll see you next Thursday. All right? And please, the only home assignment I'm going to give you this thing. I want you to look at the paper Marina will send out to you, proposal, and I want you honest, critical feedback. My question to you is this at the end of when you read this program. If you were to be, number one, accepted, would you be interested in participating in that program? That's it. That's the only question. In addition to all your things that I can improve, or you don't like, or you think it would not work. I want that type of feedback from you guys. All right? Awesome. Analyze it. Talk soon. Have a great week. Stay safe, everyone. Ilya, thanks to audio.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.